Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, powered by our friends at Modelo. Countdown to Kickoff is the series that we've launched this week, highlighting each and every Big 12 school. And today we focus on the Cincinnati Bearcats. And our guest, one of the few people that we actually trust on the internet, Scott Springer, joins us from the Cincinnati Enquirer. And Scott, you wrote, 5 stories to watch for Cincinnati football as teams go into training camp. Cincinnati is this week, here in a couple of days, I believe. So what are the highlights in your eyes?
Well, the big one is how to win in November. And that's been the thing with Scott Satterfield so far. They've had good starts in each year. Last year, you get to November 1st, and before the Utah game, they've got game day there, and you've got 7 wins. And then you lose the rest. And that just, everyone remembers how the season ends, not how the season begins. So they've had incremental progress, but I think people want to see them, take it a step further. Again, if you look at the schedule this year, may not be the easiest thing in the world because 3 of their last 4 games are road games. And Big 12 or any league, it's just really tough to win on the road. So let's see how they get out. 46 new players, you have a new quarterback. You still have the offensive line for the most part. So I would expect a decent running game. They've got some good-looking receivers. You have a new defensive coordinator who wants to get after it. So a lot of unknowns right now, and I'll be a lot smarter in a month or two, I think.
Scott, we were talking during the break, and I asked you about J.C. French, and you said you like what you have seen so far. How do you expect his season will be this year, and how much, if he does have success, how much will that be attributed to how good Cincinnati's offensive line is?
Well, I think the offensive line is the key all the way around. You look at last year, they only allowed 8 sacks. So if he doesn't get sacked and can run around and create a little bit, then that's going to help him. He did throw for more yards than Brendan Sorsby, albeit at Georgia Southern. So you have to, figure out those two things. Is it relatable or not? He can run. He ran for a decent amount of yards. Again, not as many as Sorsby, but they're 2 different guys. But I did talk to one of the Georgia Southern coaches recently and raved about J.C. French and his work ethic and everything else. And he certainly could run the ball. And one thing Scott Satterfield has said that he likes about him is where Sorsby every now and then would take a risk and maybe make a throw that he was trying to squeeze in. French will, take the check down route maybe, but keep moving the stick. So, rather than having a 3rd and 9, maybe you've got a makeable 3rd and 3 or something like that. Seems to be accurate. Really like some of the receivers they brought in. A kid named J.V. Gibson. I think he's going to be pretty good. A transfer from. I always get him and Cyrus Allen confused because they have similar stories. But yeah, J.V. was at Oklahoma. Cyrus Allen came to Cincinnati from Texas A&M. Had a breakout year last year, and is tearing it up with the Chiefs here recently in camp. So this guy could be similar, and he's a bigger guy too. Plus, they've got some other receivers that I like that I think are going to step up.
Scott Springer joining us here on Big 12 Radio. When it comes to some of the best games that J.C. French had at Georgia Southern, you wrote some of the best games and some of the worst games for former quarterback Brendan Sorsby and then J.C. French. Like what surprised you when you went through that and really did your deep dive?
Well, actually, in both cases, some of the games that you would say, well, that was not a very good game, it wasn't like they were totally ineffective. And the big thing that I noticed there, that the reason J.C. French's bad games, the reason they occurred was he was sacked a lot, as many as 7 times in one game. And that didn't happen so much to Sorsby. So that was a big difference there that, maybe with better protection, this kid can keep moving the sticks and keep putting up the numbers. Brendan's, one of his worst passing games was his first season at Iowa State, and I think he was 11 of 31 off the top of my head. But he ran for 140-something yards in that game and scored twice. So he had a way of making things happen. Even if he wasn't throwing it well, he could pick it up in other ways. The opening Nebraska game last year, he only threw for, I think, 66, 69 yards, something like that. And the bulk of that came late in the game. So I don't know, you kind of wonder if the game plan had been a little different there. The game ends on a pick. Brendan didn't throw that many picks, but yeah, it was just that mainly. I think Brendan had better protection all the way around. So if French can get similar protection, and you have three of those offensive line members back and two guys that should step up and be fine. So I think that's going to help him.
I'm just curious, did you look into Brendan Sorsby's 1 year as the starter at Indiana compared to J.C. French and kind of where they're at and what would be
That
kind of the equivalent in their career?
Yeah, I remember looking at it more when he came. It's like, who is this guy? And you could see potentially, that he was pretty decent there, and obviously a decent runner. And I always liked Brendan's swagger. Talked to him a handful of times, got to know him, and he's a big dude, 6'3", 235, and he just had a cockiness about him. Not so much arrogant, but just the right kind of attitude you'd like to have. French is a different personality, but I think he still has the same confidence in his abilities. He's not as big. Again, there's been a bundle of quarterbacks that are 6'1" or less that have done well. And even, look in the Big 12, Noah Fafita, I don't know what they list him as. I saw him at Big 12 Media Days. Not a tall guy, but he tore Cincinnati apart passing in November. And I think he's the best quarterback coming in right now. So it's not about size so much in the college ranks. Obviously, when you get to the NFL, they like the bigger guys.
Scott, I want to talk about the running back situation. Obviously, Tommy Walker and Evan Pryor are gone, but you guys have Zion Johnson. You bought in Jabron Payne and Zylan Perry. Will we see any competition at the running back position, or is Cincinnati have their guy?
I think it's going to be more than one, which it kind of was last year. You had Tommy Walker and Pryor, kind of shared carries, and then Johnson got into the mix late in the year. I think his first game was at Utah, actually, because Pryor had been injured. And then you had Manny Covey, a kid that caught a lot of passes and gained some yards that way, and he played in the bowl game. He also transferred out. They like Jabron Payne, who's a local kid, actually, but came back to town and really did, had limited opportunities at Notre Dame, and some of that was because he was injured. So he's kind of the big, tough, physical guy. Not necessarily big; they're all similar size, but he's a little bit more ripped. Zion's about 5'9", 180, 185, something like that. Really liked Zion last year at training camp, and he was just someone you saw him play, and he went, "Wow, are they going to fit this kid in?" But they kind of had their running back set already, so he had to wait. So I think he's going to get his opportunity. And then Payne, Coltab was injured a little bit during spring. I think he's back. And then Zylan Perry gained a fair amount of yards at Louisiana over the last couple of years. I think he was about 600 or so, or maybe 700 each season. So you got four guys to give it to. I think right now I would say Johnson and Payne would be 1 and 2, or 1A, 1B.
Scott, what are the other position battles? That's a big part of our countdown to kickoff, is to look at the depth chart and battles for each school. What other positions do you highlight?
Tight end, I think it's going to be Gavin Grover, who's 6'6", a big former basketball player. Total different body shape than Joe Royer. A kid named Kamari Smith has came in and looked pretty good, and the guys behind him, Lavelle Waters and Devin Zahersky, so they're deep at tight end. I think Grover may be the guy, but they played a lot of guys last year at that position. The other offensive linemen, you're looking at the right side mainly, but Xavier Lozowicki was a transfer that came in from Maine, and he bided his time and got some reps last year. And then a kid named Judea Milan, who had been injured. He's apparently, by all accounts, looked pretty good all throughout camp and practice and all that. So those guys are going to be on the right side. Then you got Tayo moves from guard to center. Evan Tingestall is the highest rated lineman, I think, in the college football 27 game. I don't play those things. Maybe you guys do. But I'm told he's the highest rated one. And then Joe Cotton is the left tackle. He's back. Big guy that they got from South Dakota that was the top portal tackle available a year ago, and he came and really worked out well. So I think that's the offensive line. Defense is going to be changes because on the first off, a different defense. Now they get away from the 3-3-5. It's a 3-4 setup. That doesn't mean he's just rushing three. He rushes as many as seven at times. Nate Woody is the defensive coordinator, came from Army, worked with Satterfield at Appalachian State from 2013 to 2017. They're going to attack more. They want more interceptions. They want more sacks. A guy to look for, I think, is Antoine Peak Jr., who was kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid, but it looks like they're moving him more to an outside linebacker where he's going to be rushing the passer some. His dad played in the NFL, so he gets pretty good instruction. And he's put some pounds on. So not quite as big as Dad was. Dad was a defensive lineman in college, but, he's still 6'1", solid 220, and probably could put more on, but very athletic and has a knack for ripping the ball away. So, and they have several linebackers back. The defensive, the secondary, mainly new guys. They've gotten some taller guys. M.J. Cannon came from Bowling Green, 6'3". Ty Goodwill, South Alabama, 6'3". They got a bunch of guys from Northern Illinois. I think they took a good bit of Northern Illinois' defense. So hopefully the Huskies have something left. But the Bearcats got several guys from there.
Scott, I want to ask you about Cincinnati and their expectations. I know a lot of media reports out there don't have them ranked very high. They have a very difficult schedule. How can they be a sleeper team? I know they have to win their non-conference, but once they get into in-conference play, what can make them competitive in the Big 12?
Confidence and just being sure of themselves. And if you look at the first month, they do not leave Cincinnati. There's 3 home games. There's 1 game against Miami University that they're playing downtown in the soccer stadium, kind of a special game, rather than going out to their field, which really isn't that far away either. It's only hour and a half tops. So you get 4 chances to sleep in your own bed or be in familiar surroundings and play at home before you go out to Arizona in early October. So if you can get through those and have a reasonable record and a decent amount of confidence, maybe that can lead you from there. Again, it's tough to gauge what anyone has because everyone has so many new players, and you almost can't even look at what happened last year other than in Cincinnati's case. I think it's reasonable to look at the offensive line and say, yeah, I think they're going to run the ball a little bit more because they have all these guys. But Cincinnati has 46 new guys. I think I heard Iowa State has over 80 new guys. And I don't think they're going to be lousy. I talked to their coach at Big 12 Media Days, and he's got a chip on his shoulder because they got picked dead last, I think. And, they don't do the official media poll anymore, but a bunch of writers get together and they do one anyway. And so I think Iowa State's down at the bottom. I've been to Ames. They love their football and they love to win, and they're pretty good in basketball. So it wouldn't shock me that they would be better than people think. So again, I think we have to get to September and see who's done what and then see what happens from there. But again, the big key for Cincinnati is November. I mean, there hasn't been a November win since 2023 at Houston. So like 1-11 so far under Scott Satterfield. Now, again, is it all his fault? Not really, but he's the one in charge, so he gets the blame.
Scott, you mentioned November. They play at Houston, at Iowa State, Colorado, and at BYU. Do they finally get a win in November?
I would think yes. I mean, if anything, I think they have a good chance against the Buffaloes coming to Nippert Stadium because Colorado then has to make the travel from Mountain Time to Eastern Standard Time, and that's a bigger factor than people think. And it's the first time Deion Sanders has been in town, I think, since he was a Cincinnati Red, and I really don't know what they have. They talk a good game, and he's had great players before, and they beat Cincinnati out there 2 years ago, but that was with the Heisman Trophy winner and Shedeur Sanders also. So I don't know if they have the same team, but I would think that at the very minimum they'd win that game. I'd have to think at Iowa State they have a decent chance, but again, we're talking about 2 teams that we really don't know how it's going to pan out for them throughout the season. So Iowa State could get on a roll, and by November they're playing. If you're at home and the crowd's behind you, and things go your way, you have a chance. And everyone's tougher at home, just the way it is.
Scott, real quick before we let you go, are these basketball tweets that you're retweeting about Dan Skillings, who was at Cincinnati
Yeah.
and then Baylor, and then Doug McDaniels received interest from a handful of schools. Are these all post this eligibility ruling that came down Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, and it's way premature on any of those. I've talked to some people. I mean, I think everyone has to do their due diligence and explore these guys. But some of this stuff is way beyond my pay scale and abilities. I feel like an attorney with all the court documents I've had to read with Brendan Sorsby and all that stuff. But I think people are just looking to see what's possibly out there. Dan Skillings just got married somewhere here in town recently because his new wife is from here, and I know he's available. But the schools that I saw that had interest, neither it was Baylor was not on the list, Cincinnati was not on the list. A little bit surprised that Charlotte wasn't on the list because Wes Miller liked him quite a bit, but.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's he's a guy that after his sophomore year, everybody was saying it's like, well, he's going to go to the NBA, and even he was saying that, and didn't get a sniff in the NBA. But now these guys coming back to school, that's a pretty good gig. It's a lot better than playing in the G League.
No doubt. Awesome stuff. Scott Springer from the Cincinnati Enquirer, our guest to break down the Bearcats. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Great insight.
See you guys.
All right, man.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott Springer on social at S Springer Sports, reading his tweets via X throughout that segment. Very insightful into the comparison, what might be J.C. French and his ceiling at quarterback behind a dominant offensive line. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We wrap up the show on a Modelo Monday. Coming up next.